It's time for CIBL Biz Tips, bringing you actionable strategies to grow and improve your business. Prepare to become civilized.
What's up, Central Illinois? Welcome to CIBL Biz Tips, where we bring you concepts and strategies to grow your Central Illinois business. Welcome back to the studio, Chris Harrison, who has done session 1 and 2 about problem solving. And this may be our final and third wrap-up session here, where we talk about solving problems within your business. I know we've had some good discussions the past 2 sessions, Chris, but what will we be discussing today about problem solving?
Perfect. Thanks again for having me, guys. And today it's taking that solution and solving that problem. But I know we talked about define the problem, don't play the blame game, then really kind of brainstorming the solutions. I think I want to pick up from that, though. Once you have a solution, we really need to define the solution, make sure everybody's clear. If there are multiple roles and responsibilities of we're going to do this, then the other party does that, then this will happen. I think that's good to know, good to lay out. And it's also good to memorialize it. The official term is put it in writing, but memorialize is good. And I always like to say, hey, I'm gonna recap this in an email, because in 3 days or 3 weeks, I'm gonna forget who said they're doing what.
Right.
So I think that's really important to put that plan and action, plan of action in writing. And it can be as simple as an email. Just so it's there. Who's doing what, when they're doing it. And then once that plan gets into place, communicate progress. If it's, hey, we're having a sewer line installed, it's, hey, I've called them, we've got it scheduled for this date, it's going to happen. That date comes, hey, they showed up today, they've started, I expect the bill here. Then all the parties need to help pay for it, because remember, you all agreed you're paying for it. So it's that communicating the progress towards the outcome.
Perfect. So tell us a little bit about how you do that. I know, and Garrett and I, again, in the insurance industry, a lot of people don't see the behind the scenes of what goes on. The client sees us, but they don't realize what's going on behind the scenes. And I know Garrett and I don't do probably a good enough job of doing exactly what we just talked about, setting a plan. We oftentimes assume things will get done. And, what's the old saying? Assuming makes a, what of you and me.
Mm-hmm.
There you go, for sure.
So Chris, how do you handle it at Main Place? What are some things you do to make sure that's being done?
Well, and like we've talked before, it's just making sure we know what the problem is. Is it worth solving the problem? What is the solution? Who all is doing what? And again, where are we at in the process of doing that? And I had a sewer line. I used that earlier here. I had a sewer line that needed to be installed. Buyer and seller agreed they're splitting the cost. Couldn't get it done in time for closing. We held a check from the seller, and everybody's kind of putting their handshake on this too. I mean, we don't have lawyers doing all this. Everybody's doing the right thing. And the sewer company was behind and they couldn't get it. And so I had the buyer of the property going, what's going on? Do I need to call somebody else? Do I need to call somebody else? Call somebody else? I'm calling the sewer company going, hey guys, you told me you'd do this. I don't care when it is. Just tell me when it's going to be. If you tell me it's in 6 weeks, tell me it's going to be in 6 weeks and you do it then. And they go, you're on the schedule. We'll get to it. I promise. We'll get to it. And there was all this, and then the seller who wrote this check is going, are they really going to fix that? Or are they just pocketing the money? And so it was just continually keeping everybody apprised of where we were at in the process. And then boom, all of a sudden, yep, Wednesday, 8 a.m., we're going to be there. And then it all happens then. So it's just keeping people, up to date on what's happening. And the worst is when nothing's happening, when you're just waiting,
Yeah.
And look, in this day and age with, it's hard to get workers and hard to get supplies, and everybody's busy, and contractors are busy and companies are busy, and people have to prioritize. Things take time. And the worst is if you go several weeks and don't keep somebody up to date on what's happening, then they think nothing's happening. If you call them and tell them nothing's happening, they go, at least he's keeping an eye on it for me. So I think that's a big thing is communicating your progress towards the outcome, because the old adage of no news is good news, not when you got a problem that needs to be solved. Right. I need to know what you're doing about it.
Yeah. Well, I know recently within the last 6 months to a year, Derek and I've been utilizing what we call a timeline of services with our client. And, it has helped us tremendously since we've started to you lay the roadmap with the client, right? Here's what things are going to look like. Here's 2 months, here's 6 months. Does it ever go like it's supposed to? No, but I agree with you. If you can at least alert them and say, hey, here's what's going on. This has taken a little bit of time. It's better than them assuming that it's not being done or that it has been done, right? Everybody's on a clear cut path together. So I know for us and for myself, it's helped tremendously laying out that timeline of services.
Yeah.
And then you got to deliver on it.
That's right.
Yeah. I will say I've got another business that's party to an insurance claim, and it's nothing significant, but in that business, it's a good amount. And I was told, 7 to 10 days about 6 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And at the third week, I kind of said, hey, what happened? At the 4th and 5th week, I'm going, hey, did you forget about me? And finally, at the 6th week, I go back and I start counting the days, and I'm going, this is ridiculous. And so the expectation of timeline is good, but you got to make sure you're monitoring it. And I know you guys do, but you don't want to bust that timeline either. And if they'd have told me in August it was going to take 6 weeks, I'd have been fine.
Sure.
So it's managing expectations and then delivering to those expectations.
Yeah. That's, it's funny because you mentioned an insurance claim, and Garrett and I handle these on a daily basis. And I'd say 8 out of 10 of them go smoothly. You don't hear about it. In fact, it happens so smoothly. That the claim happened and was turned in. And then the next thing you get a notification that a check was written. You're like, oh, that's great. That's exactly what we hope happens. But then those 2 out of 10, the call that you get is from the client. Hey, was I supposed to hear from someone by now? Yes, you sure were. And that's the hard part, is the communication. I think that was probably the topic of today's session is communication. And that's unfortunately, like you said, I think in our industry and most industries, people have been run so thin. They're missing people. They're having trouble getting people to come to work. So there's more people who have bigger workloads with less time, and they are still making the same promises that they were when they had a bigger staff. Right. And that's when it can get, if they say 10 days and it's 6 weeks, that's not good. And unfortunately, just like you did today, Chris, you talked about those are the experiences people hear about more as the negative stuff. Right. So if you're the business owner that, you've made those promises, kind of like what Garrett said about timeline of services, you do want to make sure you're following up, at least give updates on, hey, just want to let you know I've not heard anything yet, but just want to tell you that we're keeping you on our top of our list. As soon as something happens, you're the first person I'm going to call. So I think in today's business model, customer service is lacking across the board, not just in any certain industry, but across all industries. Everything is so technology driven that people just want to be kept up to date from a human being sometimes. And if you're able to do that, I think you'll be able to stand out in your marketplace, more than even 3 years ago.
Right. So, you say technology driven, and I was going to give an example about I got an update from a lender that the file has been moved from processing to underwriting, automated. This is the status change. Perfect. That's great. you know how many times I get problems, and I use the problem. We've got a situation, agent, client, buyer, seller, those type of situations.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, well, I said this, and then they said that, and then they said this, and then I said that. And I said, are you talking on the phone? Are these phone conversations, or are you texting? Well, we were just texting. Call people.
Yeah.
Call people.
Yeah.
Because I know how I look at text messages, and I'm thinking, whatever, jerk. You know, like you put the tone that I want to defend whatever tone they're bringing at me. They're not bringing a tone. I'm reading a tone. So pick up, talk to people. So if we want to summarize these, these 3 sessions here of problem solving, talk to people. And it's hard. I'm guilty when I don't feel good and I don't want to deal with the problem. It's much easier to text them and go, you need to fix that window. Rather than pick up and go, hey, we've got a little situation here. The lender needs this, the buyer wants that. So it's all about talking to people. That's how problems are really solved.
Total communication with everyone on board, right?
Yes. Yep.
Love it. Perfect. Well, awesome. I think there's no better spot to wrap up right there than to say communication equals problem solving. So
there you
go. Right.
Awesome. Well, hey, Chris, thanks again for jumping in to Biz Tips with us. I know our listeners will find some, a lot of this will probably hit home with them, and hopefully they keep in mind a few of the solutions that they can provide when a problem pops up. So, Garrett, you got anything else?
No, Chris, thanks for joining us. A lot of good stuff here.
Yep.
Thank you guys. Thanks for hosting this. This is a lot of fun. It's a great topic, really, for Central Illinois.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thanks again, Chris, and all you listeners out there. Make sure you subscribe to the CIBL podcast on your favorite podcast platform. While you're there, to leave us a review. You can connect with us on Facebook and LinkedIn. You can find us there personally as well. Until next time, y'all have been civilized. Take care.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Central Illinois Business Leaders Podcast. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/CIBL Podcast. You can also follow us on LinkedIn. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. It's the civilized thing to do.